Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Afternoon Live. I shoot my show live, and we're streaming on my Facebook page, Balanced Life by Debbie. I'm so glad to have you with us today. I am Debbie Carlin Boyle. I am a health and nutrition coach, a personal trainer, and a fitness instructor, and I help people find balance with everything that they need to do in their life in order to live a life of joy and longevity with quality. That's a big deal to me, and I hope it's a big deal to you, and that's part of the reason why I think maybe you're joining us today. So I have an interactive show. That's why I run it live. So if you like to become part of the show, you can give us a call. We're here at area code 323-524-2599. Again, 323-524-2599. So call in, ask a question, make a comment, because today's a very special show. I've done this a couple of other times when I had a co-host, but I haven't done it since. And today I have a fellow health coach with me, and we're answering all of your health and wellness questions. So I'm telling you this at the top of the show in case you didn't see any of the promos for it. We're answering those questions live on the air. So if you have a question we haven't gotten it from you yet, go ahead to Balance Life by Debbie Facebook, or you could go to my Instagram, ask a question there. And I'm checking that throughout the show. Have my little computer laptop here, and I'm going to check that, and we're going to try to answer it live on the air. The other option is to call in if you're watching live at area code 323-524-2599, okay, because we'd love to hear from you. So, like I said, today's show is all about answering your health and wellness questions, and we have about 15 to 20 questions to get to, but we're going to see what sparks the conversation. So we really want you to join us if you can. And I'm going to introduce my guest to you right now so we can get off and running and spend what time is left of our show, just all of your health and wellness concerns. All right. So my guest today is another health coach, and has a health and nutrition coach and a personal trainer myself. I get asked so many health and fitness questions, almost on a daily basis. So I thought it was appropriate to have a show devoted to answering them during my live show. So I invited a fellow health coach to join me. So we're ready for you to call in. Again, 323-524-2599. Karin Banghart is a certified integrative nutritional health coach and gut health advisor. After struggling with gut dysbiosis for several years and ultimately a colon cancer diagnosis in January of 2020, she knew she had to find the reasons and do something about it. She spent the next 18 months studying to become a nutritional health coach, blogging, creating a membership community, and recently launched her own podcast, the Health Yeah Life podcast. What started as a quest to conquer her own gut health has turned into a system that has helped hundreds of her members heal their gut and discover more about their overall health. According to Karin, healthy isn't a goal, it's a lifestyle. And amen to that. So please welcome Karin Banghart to my show. Welcome, Karin. Hello.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm so excited to be here.
Will you pronounce your last name for me? I think I got it bad.
No, you did good. Karin Banghart.
Okay, good. Karin, thank you for joining. I'm so excited to have you here. And I can't remember how I found you, or through a friend, through somebody who did our show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad I did, because we're so like-minded. We're so on the same path, and we're so passionate about giving information to others that I thought there's no way to have you on the show without really answering a bundle of questions that we find are important, as well as the questions that came in from our clients, our families, and friends. So I'm so excited to do this today. Before we get started, and even though in the introduction I alluded to this a little bit, I want to hear a little bit about your background, even your younger years, and, you know, even what it was like growing up in terms of lifestyle, whether it was healthy or not. And then we know what got you to become a health coach, but tell us all the backstory to that, if you don't mind. So tell us a little about you.
Sure. Okay. Well, where do I start? I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it was when, the processed foods started. Well, they started before that, but processed foods were a big part of our life. Microwave ovens came, and it was convenience. Both my parents worked, so we were often on our own for meals. Although my mom cooked at night, my dad was very picky. I actually laugh about my dad. He's never eaten a vegetable. And even recently, when talking to him, he said, I tried lettuce, and my family calls me Carrie. So he said, Carrie, I tried lettuce. I tried it. I chewed on it. I got all the moisture out and I spit it out. No, why do people like eating things like that? So, my backstory, my mom was always on a diet. Unfortunately, that's what I saw most of my life. I always thought I was healthy. And I think for the most part, I was healthy. I also think I created a perfect storm. And that was basically, I did have gut dysbiosis. So I had a lot of gut issues. But in my younger years,
tell the audience what dysbiosis means so people understand what that is with your gut.
Okay, basically an unhealthy gut, right? I mean, you've got
bad bugs.
Yeah,
the bad guys
stuff going on.
Yeah.
And again, if you go way back, I was on antibiotics for a year when I was young, and that was probably when I was around the age of 7. I if I can remember right, they were actually testing us at school, and every time they tested us, I came up with strep, or they said I had strep. So unfortunately, I was on antibiotics. I now know what I know now. I believe that was probably the beginning of probably some of my
big time
health issues. Yeah.
Yep.
And now that we're understanding how the microbiome works, and we won't get too deep into things, but just knowing that I didn't have the good bugs I needed,
right?
They were taking out my bad bugs, but they were taking out my good bugs too.
Right. It takes out the good bacteria. So it lets the bad stuff in, and you become almost immune to the good stuff, and not able to, you're not able to rid your body of it that easily. So it allows you, it lowers your immune system, and it causes issues. You're just not processing your food the way it should be processed to keep you healthy and well. So you're probably right. I had the same issues. I had chronic ear infections, and I lived on antibiotics for probably 10 years. All I remember, because ear infections are also considered bacterial infections that have to be dealt with through antibiotics. They're not viruses. And it took out all the good stuff. So then I became immune to the antibiotics. So it wasn't helping me anymore. It was actually making things worse. Same thing. Same exact thing, and it is a start of problems. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're no, and that I believe, again, looking back, hindsight, that was probably a little bit of my issue, but I also have a very sensitive system. So going forward, I'd had some trouble even, and thinking back now in my 20s, I had a colonoscopy, and I believe in a way, it was probably the reason I didn't get another one until I turned 51. And you're supposed to have them by 50. And now they actually went back and said, let's go to 45. So I should have probably been a little bit more on top of it. But when they did my colonoscopy in my 20s, I was like, hey, it was fine. They didn't find anything. And so I just kept living life. I would have severe gut pain. And bloating and lots of different things. When it came to light that I found out I had colon cancer, we'll kind of jump ahead, but I had basically, and this is probably a little TMI for folks, but I'm okay with it. I had bloody mucus. And I share this because I want others that have been in my position to speak up. So I had been doing all the things. I was going to my naturopathic doctor. We were trying to figure out diets, trying different things. I see a chiropractor, and he's not your typical just crack you and leave. He does kinesiology. He does my supplements. He's very in tuned. And so I kept telling all these people, I'm like, something isn't right. Something isn't right. Finally, at the end of 2019, I said, I'm going to the GP doc. They're, your general practitioner. And I said, and when I go to him, he's going to have me do a colonoscopy, which again, I was totally and completely fine with. I knew we had to find out an answer. And so January came of 2020. I went in for my colonoscopy. I was actually talking to the nurses and doctors beforehand. And it was kind of exciting because they told me, hey, we'll be able to tell what your issue is. If you have an autoimmune issue, they could tell if you had Crohn's or colitis. And I thought, great, this will be great. We'll have an answer to what I'm dealing with, what I'm going through. So I go in, do my colonoscopy. I wake up, and this is not a joke, Debbie. I wake up and the doc's basically over me, and he says, you have cancer.
Oh my God, that's nice and gentle.
Right. And he's a great doctor. I want to tell you, I think, again, thinking back, he was a young doctor, and he probably didn't have a great bedside manner, but knowing me and the way I am and my demeanor, I was like, how do you know I have cancer? It's like not thinking, okay, this gentleman is a GI doctor. He knows if you had cancer. My poor husband, I look over at him because he's standing next
devastated.
to me, and his mouth is gaping wide open. And I was just like, okay, we got cancer. Okay. So we leave, and my husband's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And I looked at him because, unfortunately, Debbie, if you say the word cancer, people think of death.
Yeah.
And so away, I'm dying. I wasn't dying 2 hours before, but now I'm dying.
Yeah. Scary.
And so, yeah, it is scary. And I just looked at him and I said, this is not my demise. And I knew in my heart that this wasn't the end for me. And I would fight my fight. And I was never afraid. I have to be honest. I was never afraid. I had a few things I had to do. We own a glass company that we've owned for 25 years that I also work in. Besides, now I'm a nutritional health coach. And I had some things I had to do. It was January. I had W-2s to do. I had quarterly taxes. I had some things. And I told the doctor, I said, I'm going to have surgery because they recommended I have a resection surgery. So basically they go in and cut out the section that has the cancer in it. And they have to go blood supply to blood supply. I learned so much. It's actually really interesting.
I bet.
Yeah. So I knew I had to have colon resection surgery. So we did that on February 3rd, 2020. He went in, the surgeon was phenomenal. He went in, he took out almost a foot of my large intestine. They did it robotically, which is, amazing. I can't say enough about I have very minimal scars to this day. And they did take 17 lymph nodes, and they checked those, and nothing. I didn't have the cancer, hadn't spread. Now, when they check you, like when they check that cancer in your colon, it was 1 millimeter from coming out of my colon. So it spreads through your colon. That's how colon cancer works. It spreads through your colon, and then it infects your lymph nodes. It infects other organs. And so I hadn't had any spread. So I didn't have to do chemo, didn't have to do radiation. And I have to tell you, I just thank those that went before me, because this surgery, to be able to know what they were doing, even with the robot, and to be able to go in and do the things that they did was just amazing. Cool. So that's kind of my beginning of how I became a nutritional health coach. Even though I had thought I was healthy before, I really found out maybe I wasn't so healthy, with
Yeah.
when we'll go into it with the processed foods and
Yeah.
stuff. So,
So
but
you learned a
yeah.
lot, I'm sure. And like myself, I
Hmm.
have a very similar background as you. Even aside from the antibiotics, I also grew up on processed food, and I call myself a processed kid. But I lost my father when he was 46 years old because of this lifestyle. And there were 4 kids in my family, and we were all eating horribly. Fast food was just coming into play. And I got to tell you that I had to turn it around by the time, I hit college, or I was going down that same path. And I lost my aunt, his sister, she was 60 from cancer. So that lifestyle, when you see devastation like that at a young age, you got to make a change. And then you start learning, like, oh yeah, like you did, maybe, even though I was thin, I was overweight once the food started catching up to me, probably around 17 or 18. Before I went to college is when I made all the changes. But that's when you realize, wow, there is a correlation between lifestyle, how you feel, how you look, how you act, and how you move forward in this world. So, and sometimes you just take it for granted. You can be skinny and unhealthy. It doesn't mean that you're eating well. So, and we're going to talk about that today. But I want to get into these questions that we've been asked to answer for people so we can help. These are common questions that we pulled out from our pack of people that have been asking us questions. And we can give a name to the people who asked them. Most of them are my clients or family or friends. And same for you, I believe. And hopefully we're going to help people that are listening by answering these questions based on our education and the work that we're, and the research that we do. So I'm going to let you ask the first question of me, because I'm going to answer fitness and health questions for food and lifestyle. But because I'm a personal trainer and fitness instructor and have been for 27 years, I have a little background in that, and I get a lot of these questions all the time. And I got this one from my niece. So
Perfect. Okay. First question. Excuse me. First question. Carly asks, what is the best time to exercise?
okay, there's 2 of my clients right there. Okay, so the best time to exercise is any time you're going to get up and do it. So that's the sort of title of that. But if you want to get more into the nitty-gritty of it, the best time to exercise for the human body is first thing to start your day. That would be optimal. But not everybody can do that for several reasons, no matter how your day starts. So movement throughout the day is something that's given, but actual purposeful exercise, when you can give yourself even 20 minutes, half hour, even if you want to go longer, you can, is pretty important to overall health. So if you can start your day, Carly, with exercise, that's the best optimal way for anybody. And we're going to talk about this, about bio-individuality. Everybody's different, and different bodies respond in different ways to everything we do in life, whether it be exercise, whether it's the food we eat, whether it's the air we breathe, how our body processes that. Everyone's different. No 2 people are alike. So, some people can do just fine exercising later in the day, and our bodies do get adjusted to that. But if you can optimally, when I'm giving more of a general, and that's how we're going to answer most of these questions today, more generalized, would be first thing in the morning. And that way you're burning calories through the rest of the day. You're feeling energetic. You got the serotonin and the endorphin levels taking you through. So that would be my answer to that. All right, if you have a question, call us. We're at 323-524-2599. If you're listening or watching this after the show, go ahead to my Instagram or my Facebook page and write a question, ask or make a comment, and we'll talk to you post-show. Okay, your turn. So, Katie asks, when you're on the go, what is the best fast food restaurant? It's sort of a oxymoron there. But what is the best fast food restaurant when you're on the go?
Right. And we know how hard it is for busy parents. And unfortunately, the more time that goes by, the faster we are moving, I think, So I know Katie personally, and she's a softball mom. So they are on the run a lot during the week. But my answer to Katie is to try to go someplace that's healthier, someplace that you can actually choose what's going into your meal, such as Mad Greens, Qdoba, Chipotle, and maybe even Subway. But sadly, what I'm seeing more and more lately is people think that Chick-fil-A, they think it's chicken and so that it's healthy. And if you guys knew what was in their ingredients, you would disagree. So try to stick with those type places. We also think that if you can stop at an actual, not a fast food place, but a diner, maybe some little local mom and pop shop, they would probably be a little bit healthier. But again, just watch what ingredients you're getting, from whatever you're ordering. And people think that if they get a salad, it's better, and it might be a little bit better, but you do have to be careful and cautious of the dressings, because sadly they're made with processed seed oils, ultra processed seed oils, which are very, very inflammatory and hard on our bodies. So if you were going to go for a salad, I might even suggest, taking a lemon if they have lemons and squeezing it on top and choosing no dressing, maybe a little salt and pepper just to give it taste. But that would be my recommendation.
Yes, good one. That's a good one. And that's difficult because people, fast food is cheaper, it's easier, it's what it says it is. It's faster. But is it better? No. And there are some fast food restaurants, that are trying to do healthier choices. But like you said, even a salad, aside from the dressing, usually the greens are like, what do you call that? They're just a regular lettuce, and it's usually got preservatives on it and to hold the freshness, which then you're getting those chemicals, and that's unhealthy. And again, can cause gut inflammation and dysbiosis, like you said. So, yeah, that if you can find a better alternative than a fast food restaurant, then you're giving yourself a really good start and a really good. You want to get in those habits if you can do it. That's what I would say. Okay, so next question. Oh, no, you ask me.
Yes, next question. Greg asks, what is meant by time restricted eating?
Okay, so I'm getting this a lot because it's sort of it's kind of trendy right now, time restricted eating and what that means. And basically it means timing out when you eat and when you don't eat. So in general, again, we're answering more generalized, not individualized, but you can do intermittent fasting, or you can do this time-restricted eating that works for you. And I would say start small with this. Now, first thing to do is to stop eating 3 hours at night before you go to bed. That's optimal if you can do it. So your body is not processing food and you're trying to get to sleep and you can't. People who have sleep issues a lot of times have eaten too close to bedtime. So give it a minimum of 3 hours. So once you stop, now you've restricted your eating, because why we sleep is when our body goes to work. And that's when we sort of get our tune-up, if you will. That's when we digest our food and our body takes the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that it needs, and then we have waste that goes after that. So that's how we are being fueled, either healthy or unhealthy. So that's time that you don't want to put anything into your body except maybe water. And then when you wake up, you're breaking the fast, right? Because that's why we call it breakfast, breaking the fast. But if you want to do time-restricted eating, you may want to skip the breakfast and start. A lot of people do where they have maybe up to 18 hours from the time they stop eating dinner to the time that they maybe eat lunch the next day. There's your restricted time. And it has shown remarkable results overall with people and their wellness and their health issues. So people who are trying to lose weight, it's been a real plus in helping lose weight. It's because your body's not working so hard to process all this food that's coming in intermittently. Instead, you're giving it a break, a nice long break. Now, if you're hungry and you need to eat, you can't maybe wait that long, then go ahead and you're still breaking the fast if you could do a later in the day breakfast. And again, everybody's individual, and for blood sugar reasons and all kinds of reasons, you know, you may have to eat the first thing when you wake up. That's fine. But a lot of times it would be like 8 hours where you have an 8-hour window where you do all your eating and then you stop, and then whatever's left, you go ahead and you take that break, you know, up to 18 hours. And some people, you know, fasting is different than time-restricted eating. So I recommend giving it a try, but on a smaller scale. Maybe break your fast somewhere between 10 a.m. and noon. And that way maybe you've gotten, let's say you got 8 hours of sleep and add 4 more, and now you're having sort of a late breakfast lunch kind of thing. See what happens. Do that for a week. See how you feel and see how you look. And you're going to notice a difference. So there's your answer, Greg. And again, if you guys have comments or questions, call in to us, ask us online. All right. It is a question from Katie again. Maybe the same. Is this the same soccer mom?
Yeah.
So Katie asks, what's the best way to cut out sugar without crazy withdrawals? Whoa, that's a loaded question. But yeah, what do you think?
It is, because sugar is highly addictive, and sadly it's in a lot of our processed foods again. So you have to pay attention, but my suggestion would be to start slow. Start slow and replace some of those sugary snacks with things like fruit and anything that you can think of that would be healthier. But sadly, again, going back to sugar, and I know she didn't ask me about what it does, but it's very hard on our body. It's inflammatory. It damages your liver, your joints, your skin. And part of the problem with sugar is it gives you that feel good. It gives you that lights your brain up and gives you that dopamine. So again, you have to pay attention to your feels, but my suggestion would take it slow. I wouldn't just cut off, especially if you're someone who eats a lot of sugar. I would say do it slow. Replace that sugary snack with, you know, something different, like a piece of fruit, an apple. And again, if people could watch their sugary drinks, and that's not just soda, it's also juices, and start there. That's what I would do.
Yeah, we have a saying. Both Karin and I are graduates of the Integrative Institute of Nutrition, and I went on to study hormone health. You went on to study gut health very specifically. So between us, we have a lot of knowledge here. And one of the terms that we use throughout our program is crowding out. And what you want to do is try to crowd out the bad stuff with the good stuff, but slowly, like Karin said, and surely. So, because diets don't work, as we know. There's hundreds and hundreds of dietary theories. Lifestyle works. So we want to make those changes gradually, because abruptly they're bound to fail, and they almost always do. And then you put on even more weight and your cravings become even worse. So getting rid of the processed food is going to help you get rid of the sugar. So I would say to you, start reading labels and look at the sugar content. Sugar is hidden everywhere, and even artificial sugars dupes your body, because there's a brain-gut connection. So it makes your brain think that it's real sugar when in fact it's really inflammatory chemicals that is going to cause problems down the line. So even fake sugar, you want to, if you're going to sweeten something up, you want more natural sugars like maple syrup, stevia, and even that, if you could start crowding that out, you're going to have better success. So there's that one.
Yes. And I want to add real quick too, when it comes to the fake sugars, and you discussed it real quick there, the chemicals, and it tricks your body, and it Sadly, it makes you more hungry.
Mm-hmm.
It does the opposite of what you think it should be doing.
It creates also addiction to to the chemicals that so you want
Yes.
more, and that's the cravings. That's where the cravings come from. So if you could start crowding out, put that extra salad on your plate. And one of the things that I do is I roast vegetables a lot, and I do it with avocado oil, a good oil. A lot of cooking with olive oil, but olive oil has a low smoke point, so you're better off with like an oil like avocado to roast with. And then I use herbs and spices to and then it caramelizes naturally a little bit, and that's me getting all the nutrients that I need without getting fake sugar, so or even processed sugar, raw
Love
sugar.
it.
Okay, so I guess it's my question.
Now it's your turn. Yeah. Your turn. Okay, Lisa's asking what foods are considered the most inflammatory?
Okay, I think I have a list up there, Tony, that I gave you of inflammatory foods. So there are food sensitivities. Again, the bio-individuality thing comes into it. We're all different. My food could be your poison, and your food could be my poison. But there is like a general rule of thumb of foods that could really cause some havoc on you. And when you start having gut issues, some of the things we look for there's a difference between food sensitivity and food allergies. Most people know what their food allergies are, but some people don't realize that their guts are very sensitive to certain foods. And one of them, of course, is gluten. So these are gut. This causes dysbiosis. These gut destroyers. So up here, sugar can cause inflammation, as we just talked about. GMO foods can cause inflammation, which is genetically modified foods. And that's what we were talking about. That's considered processed food, and genetically modified are almost very similar. You got to watch out. These are additives and things to get you to buy more that are not necessarily good for you. Certain medications can cause inflammation. So you got to be really careful. If you're having gut issues, check your medications and try to see if there's a correlation. Read your labels and see if there is, and then you may have to make an adjustment with that. Vegetable oils. So we were just talking about the bad oils being very inflammatory. You made that statement a few minutes ago, Karin. Seed oils can really wreak havoc, and that's because they go through a process, and they're saturated, and they stick around, and they cause all kinds of problems. The other thing is stress. Stress can really cause inflammation because it changes your cortisol levels. Your cortisol is your stress hormone, which in turn, that's sort of your fight or flight situation. And then what happens is your adrenals get affected, and you're living on when you hear people talking about adrenal fatigue, or running on fumes and that kind of thing, that's your cortisol levels way up, and that causes inflammation in the gut and can cause lots of issues from there. Sugar, alcohols, I think that's fake sugar. We talked about that a little bit. Alcohol itself is inflammatory, depending on when and how much, and again, your genetic predisposition to be able to metabolize that. Cleaners, environmental, can cause inflammation in your gut. So you've got to watch what's in your environment, what chemicals are there that you're inhaling that are causing things for inflammation to be caused throughout your body. And I'm not sure, chlorine and fluoride. So we have to watch, that's, again, environmental. You need to watch the intake of that. Some raw diets can be very inflammatory for people. So you have to, if you're eating a raw food diet and you're having issues with the gut, then chances are there's something that's is in in the raw foods that you're eating that you probably have a sensitivity to, and you need to be careful with that. And the other thing would be gluten or wheat. That is, we're going to talk about gluten because I know there's a question about that. But gluten comes from a protein called gliadin. And gliadin comes from a seed of grass. And humans were not meant to digest grass. Cows were because they have 4 stomachs, 4 digestive tracts. We do not. We've got 1. So it becomes inflammatory, again, individually to some and not to others. So if you're having gut issues, I would say the very first thing you would want to do is eliminate gluten. And then there are other things that, like dairy, eggs can be inflammatory depending on who you are and what your gut situation is. Again, there's the genetic component to it. And other foods can be soy. Some seeds can be inflammatory. Oh, and here we go. If you're looking, there's a casein, which is part of dairy, which is sort of the casing that they put around your dairy foods. That people, it's not so much dairy itself as it is the casein and the lactose that is part of cow's milk. So there isn't as inflammatory if you go sheep or goat, but people still have issues with that. Fried food and processed meat can be a problem. Fast food, which is all processed. So I think everything else we talked about. But that's a big list. There's a lot to look at there. So, it's being aware, and it is trying for 80% of the time to be really mindful and be good about what you're putting in your body is what I would say to that, right? So,
yes, most definitely.
Yeah. So, and that one covers a lot. I mean, that one we can go into a discussion for quite a while. All right, I have one for you. It's also from Katie. So this is the last one from Katie. So top 10 worst things you can eat that are extremely common in most households. I think we hit on this, but let's like do a little laundry list of this.
Okay, so I went and thought of foods that are typically in people's homes, right? And a lot of them are pantry items, which entails your processed foods. So a lot of these have the seed oils. So when we talk about the seed oils, you may have heard like even canola oil is good. It is not. And you want to watch soybean oil, canola oil, a lot of the different processed oils. You just want to be careful of those. And sadly, they're in most processed foods. So that would be my first. Cereals, because they're full of sugar. And we talked about sugar. Soda, again, full of sugar. If you can eliminate those. And then you just hit on processed meats. Processed meats contains nitrates and chemicals. That's how they preserve them. Also, there are high amounts of salt and fat in processed meat. And so I'm thinking like your lunch meat. Frozen meals that they contain, again, high amounts of preservatives. They are making these shelf stable. And so even if they're in the freezer, they're shelf stable. They want them to last as long as possible. Unfortunately, then they use these chemicals and they're not meant to be eaten by us. So chips contain your bad oils again, other flavors also, your other flavors, your natural flavors, your artificial flavors. You want to be very wary of those. Your bleached white flour, again, it's bleached. We can get into the gluten side of it too, but they bleach it. They actually bleach it. Fruit juice contains your high amount of sugar. And then we go into things like maybe you have syrup. I know when I was a kid, and even the stuff I used to feed my kids, it wasn't syrup, Debbie. It was high fructose corn syrup. It wasn't actually
the worst
syrup.
thing that you can eat. The worst thing. That stuff goes nowhere. It just
Oh my gosh.
causes
And
a
that
lot
is
of
not
havoc.
syrup.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it isn't.
A lot of sugar and processed sugar.
Yeah.
So again, things like maybe your margarine, again, that hit
Processed.
me I think it was probably the 90s when margarine was better than butter. So again, you have these highly processed oils that they're putting in these, and no bueno on our tummies. So that would be my suggestion. Watch those pantry items and definitely the processed items.
Yeah. Big time. And I'm just going to add a little bit to this is that, I do part of my service and practice with my clients is doing supermarket tours and refrigerator and cupboard makeovers. And one of the ways that, we start getting rid of processed food and we start reading labels. And the supermarket tour is I teach them how to walk the perimeter of the market because that's where the fresh food is. And, going to produce is the first and foremost because the fresher the food is, the more it's going to assimilate and the less problems you're going to have. So, it's starting to look at food differently and trying to stay away from the packaged stuff unless it's packaged lettuce or, the less ingredients, the less processed, the healthier you're going to be, period. That's what I would say to that.
And you don't have to read the ingredients of an avocado. You know what it is.
That's right.
They don't have a label, so yeah, sticking with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Going on to the next question. Stephanie asks tips for weight maintenance and loss.
Okay. Stephanie she was one of my clients that was the exercise person that we showed. That was her daughter. I trained her and her daughter. Okay, so weight maintenance. I know, so not all of them, but most of my clients are women, and everybody's concerned with weight. And what I would say is, not any two people are alike. And, body composition and composition and what your genetics are come into play here. But lifestyle, so we have two things. We have our constitution, which is our genetics, and then we have our condition, which is what we do have control over, right? So what we have control over is the first thing is our diet. And we've talked a lot about ways to eliminate bad foods and bring in the good food. But the number one thing you could do for weight maintenance and your health is to hydrate. I would say the number one thing. So when you think you're drinking enough water, you're probably really not. And I know I'm guilty of this because I teach spin classes and I get dehydrated very easily throughout the day, especially on the days I teach. So think about it this way. Half your body weight in ounces. So it sounds like a lot, depending on how much you weigh, but half your body weight in ounces, and you're going to have a lot better outcome on the way you feel and the way you look. I use water and sweat for my skin, basically, and no other products. And I'm in my mid-60s. So not to say that the sun hasn't done its damage since I'm green-eyed, red hair, and grew up out here. But nonetheless, I do the best I can now that I know better. So the other thing is you got to move. So whatever, we talked about it earlier with exercise, whatever movement you can get in, if you can take a walk first thing in the day, last thing in the day, whatever you can do, get those steps in. And weight resistant training is going to help you shape and get more toned, and it's also going to help you with weight loss. So it's not so much about how much you weigh, but how you look, how you feel, and what your health journey is. The other thing which we alluded to a little bit, is trying to be more stress-free, because when your cortisol levels are up, you hold on to body weight. And so if you've got something that's stressing you out in your life, you're going to probably want to hit that with some solutions. And we can talk about how to do that in a little bit when we talk about balanced life. And then you're going to see a drastic difference when your stress levels go down on control of your weight. And then last, I would say that's most important, a lot of elements, but last would be sleep, and to make sure that you get rest. And the general rule of thumb is 7 to 9 hours a night. So, and this is so you can get into that deep beyond REM sleep, that deep sleep where your body really can reset itself, because that's what we do. We get a restart. Every morning that we open our eyes, we've reset, and it's never too late to make that change. So genetics, you can blame that, but you can't really, because you're in charge of your condition. So I hope that helped. Don't you think?
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
All right, so now it's, where are we? We're at Brooke asks, what is leptin And what does it do to your body? Good question. I think a lot of people don't know.
Good question. And this probably should have been a question for you, Debbie, since you did the hormones.
Yeah, but
Yeah, because it is a hormone.
yes.
So it's an obesity hormone. It's our starvation hormone. Leptin is a protein that is made in your fat cells, and it circulates in your bloodstream, goes to your brain. Leptin tells your brain that you have enough energy stored in your fat cells to engage in normal metabolic processes. If you go on a diet and you go below what your leptin threshold is, your brain senses it that it's in starvation mode. And then it drives your leptin up, levels up. It stimulates your vagus nerve. So we're getting a little technical here, but your vagus nerve runs between your brain and your abdomen. And once your vagus nerve is turned on, you become hungrier. So it's just like this vicious cycle. You can then have leptin resistance, and that is similar to type 2 diabetes. But there's no magic pill out there. There's no pill for, leptin resistance, but it's best to keep your hormones in check and your thyroid in balance. So that's a little bit on the leptin side of
Yes.
what's going on as far as the hormones. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Hormone balance is tricky. And our hormones are driven, well, there's a genetic component, of course, but our hormones are driven by lifestyle. And all the things that I just said before this, the things for weight maintenance are also dictate where our hormones are going and what they're doing. And when your hormones are out of whack, your thyroid is out of whack. When your thyroid is out of whack, you have insulin resistance going on. And when that happens, it's really hard to get control of your weight because you've already kind of gone down the rabbit hole. But it's never too late. So you can make those changes through good, healthy lifestyle. So we're getting there. So I think we're on halfway through almost. So we're going to sort of barrel through the answers, I think.
Okay, perfect. And I believe it's Gianna, and she's asking you, I'm so confused. What should I be eating?
Okay, so we touched on this, so I won't go through it again, but basically what you shouldn't be eating is processed food. And so everything I just talked about, shopping the perimeter of the market, is so important. And my clients get very confused about this. Yes, so here's what you should be eating: the rainbow. And the reason why is there are vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in what we just put up pictures of. These I created myself, these plates of fruits and vegetables. And there's so many different, and we don't have time today, but we can do another show on this, and what you're getting from all these fruits and vegetables that you're eating, and all of the nutrients that are coming through for that, and what it does, what these nutrients actually do for your organs. And again, there's a gut-brain connection. So what you put in your gut is going to have a lot to do with how you feel and how you react to things, how tired you are, and all of that. So it's really important to eat whole, fresh food. I can't stress that enough. And whether you're plant-based or not isn't necessarily a thing, but you should look at the source of your animal foods. So how are they sustained? How are they processed? Like we talked about processed food. You want to stay away from processed food. You want to go more into the sustainably farmed, the wild caught, no additives, no preservatives, no antibiotics, free range, that kind of thing if you're eating meat. And I always say when it comes to protein, no more than palm size. And that's usually good balance on your plate. So if you're a bigger person, you're going to have a bigger palm. You can have a little more. If you're a little person like me, then I can't have that much. But if you can over protein yourself, even with good proteins. So, and if you're plant-based, just be careful because, just being a vegan doesn't mean that you're not going to get into the processed food. So, all right,
yes.
Next question. We only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to go for some questions that I'm going to ask you. What foods help the immune system? Molly asked this question.
Okay, so let's go into foods that contain vitamins. So things like vitamin D. So you want to go for those foods that are containing vitamin D. Salmon, cod liver oil, spinach, kale. You can do eggs. You want to do foods that contain vitamin C, which are citrus, your citrus fruits, orange, kiwis, grapefruits, your cruciferous vegetables, and things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower. You also could go for things like blueberries, and they contain antioxidants, ginger, garlic, honey, and also fermented foods. So all of those are great for your immune system. And I know right now everybody's looking to make sure that their immune system is working and in great condition, right?
Big time, big time. During the pandemic, I know the difference between my healthy clients being able to stay away from COVID, or even if they had it, they just had no symptoms, compared to the ones that my friends and that I know that aren't so healthy and got really sick. So in spite of the vaccines. So that, lifestyle plays a huge part here, and the more should be talked about that. So I think we're going to wind down with one last question, and it's from Barbara. Will you read that question, and I'll answer that, and then we'll get to our wrap up.
Okay, perfect. Barbara's asking you, what do you mean by balanced life, Debbie?
Okay, so people ask me this all the time in my classes and people that I, start talking to. So basically, if you put up, Tony, the circle of life, and what it is for people who can see, and for those that can't, this is everything that feeds us besides the food on our plate. So it becomes spirituality, creativity, finances, career, I can't see it all. What's
education?
Education, health, physical activity, home cooking, home environment, relationships, social life, and joy. So all those things have to come into play in order for you not to have all the other things we were talking about, the stress and the inflammation that comes in. So one of the ways to figure this out is what I do with my clients is I do a little circle of life exercise. And right here, as you can see, I have them place a dot on where they are at on the wheel and then connect the dots. And anything that's really low on this circle of life wheel, for instance, in this one, it's home environment and finances. You would take that. And you guys can reach out to me on my Facebook page or my Instagram. DM me if you want, and I'll send you this to do. It's a great little exercise. I do it with my talks. And if you connect these dots when you're down, let's just take one category like finances, and then you're going to put 3 things that you can do to change the situation in your finances. And let's just say one of them is to go on a budget. Another one is to get a side hustle. And another one is to not eat out so much, which is going to help you in this journey of lifestyle and diet. So, and then you're going to say how you're going to do it. So you're going to kind of whittle down the answer to actionable steps. And I would go through the wheel, and anything that's low on that wheel, I would do that. This balance is really important to longevity with quality. And to end this, that's what we're all about. So we want to create a lifetime of health, wellness, and ultimately joy and happiness. And that comes with taking care of yourself and then those around you. So I am so excited. We have to wrap it up here. I'm so glad we got to do this. I didn't take any sponsor breaks today because I wanted to just ramrod through. We're going to have to do it again because we only got halfway through. But I would like you to give some final words. Before you do that, how can people work with you and reach out to you?
Well, they can always reach out to me via my website or Facebook. But on my website, it's healthyeahlife.com, and you can reach me there. You can also just type in my name and send me an email, Karin at healthyeahlife.com. am on all the social medias. I'm on Facebook, Healthy Out Life. They're all the same. Instagram, Healthy Out Life. And you can again reach out to me. I do have a membership that if you're interested in working with me, I have a community and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful group of people. Again, mostly like you said, women, but we help each other and we work through things just like you were discussing, like with the circle of life. It's more than the food we're putting on our plate.
Love it. Love it. And final words of wisdom or final thoughts, a phrase, a word, whatever you think.
I think you said it at the beginning, stop looking at your food as a diet. It's a lifestyle. This
Yep.
is your life.
It is. It totally is. And so I want to say to you, the audience, I want to say thank you to Karin because she was a big help. It's so good to have a little bit of bouncing back and forth instead of, just my opinion or people thinking, well, she's so full of it. This is good to have validation and somebody else who's like-minded. But I want to say to you that if you're listening to this show or watching this show after the fact, reach out. Ask us a question, make a comment, whether you see it on my YouTube channel, any of my social media, or Karin's for that matter. Go ahead, let's keep this conversation going because that's what I'm all about. And in the interim, I want you to keep going out and having those conversations that connect to a healthier you. Bye, everybody. I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. Bye now. Thank you, Karin.